Thank you for staying with us. This is Nigeria Decides. For a week now, the case of the suspended CJN has been on the burner with the arguments and counter-arguments for and against this case. Now, it's something that we all have been looking at. Our eyes are on it.
Definitely. And following allegations that the case against the CJN was much more than a misconduct, the federal government of Nigeria has yet again defended the action of President Buhari for suspending the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen. Now, to look at this story and help us understand what the law says, well, we have Oby Ajegbo, legal practitioner, as well as Nejeeb Bello, political affairs analyst. Thank you very much, lady, gentlemen.
Thank you for joining us. Interestingly, as we just rolled out on our news, the Agbakoba has actually submitted a petition against, the CJN and Tanko Mohammed. Let me just read a little bit of it. In his statement from his chambers, he submitted his petition to the National Judicial Council, asking it to determine the propriety of Justice Mohammed accepting to be sworn in by the president in place of the suspended CJN Justice Walter Onnoghen. In other words, he's questioning the, I don't know.
Legal decency.
Not necessarily, let's not bring legality into it. Just the sheer decency that comes with, that office in the first instance. Now, Ms. Oby, you obviously are a legal practitioner, so you'd obviously know what to say about this.
This goes beyond decency. From reports, from records that I have read, Justice Mohammed Tanko sat with the bar, with the NJC, to decide over a similar case in Abia State, whereby the CJ was removed by the governor and another CJ was appointed. And what did they decide? They told the new CJ in quotes, to step down. And I believe they sacked her. And then they now reinstated the other one and then took action against that one after reviewing her case. So there's already precedent. It's not done. What we have now is we have two CJs and it's not done. Anyway, we don't have two CJs, we have one CJ.
And the other?
And the other.
The other is what?
The other is, I don't know.
Nejeeb, you obviously are like the average Nigerian. You are watching all of this play out like a Nollywood movie. What's your take?
My take is that as it is right now, there should be action against Buhari's new CJ, who is claiming to be the CJ, because we have to be careful by calling that man the new CJN. He really is not. The CJN is still Walter Onnoghen, and there must be action taken against him. Like she said, the case of Abia, we know about the case of Abia. This man was part of the NJC that decided that, oh, this is a wrong thing to do. And the judge who even took up that position, who was appointed after the other judge, was sanctioned, and he was part of those who sanctioned. So he should be facing sanctions too. And people are not thinking, if they are saying, oh, Buhari had to take action because, like Lai Mohammed has claimed now, they saw
That's the latest response.
Lots of millions in the CJ's account.
That is gossip.
That is just hearsay.
That is gossip.
At the end of the day, let's even assume that at the end of the day, they find the CJN guilty of these crimes of corruption. What about Buhari, who has removed illegally, unconstitutionally removed the CJN? What is the punishment?
Who determines the consequence? Most definitely. Well, Nejeeb, Oby, we have a video clip here coming up shortly. A response from Donald Duke. You had that conversation with him and some interesting response, right?
Yes, over that removal, because he's also a legal practitioner before a politician. So we had these few words to say. Let's go to that clip by the SDP presidential candidate.
I'm a lawyer, first and foremost. It is the most stupendous thing I've heard in my 36 years as a lawyer. It's unheard of for a president to suspend a chief judge. I mean, even in a dictatorship, it's not done. Throughout almost 38 years of military rule, no military precedent suspended, let alone removed a CJN in this country. It's never happened. There is a process that you take. And in the the High Court made a ruling, the Appeal Court made a ruling, the government is disobeying the ruling. But I tell you, what I find most embarrassing about all this is that a justice of the Supreme Court agreed to be sworn in his place. It is sad that a fellow colleague would take advantage of this. It just shows that there's no honor.
He says it shows us there's no honor. That's the word I was trying to get, earlier on. So then it has to be some honor in this, with or without the law.
There is a code.
Okay.
Being a judge is not selling. It's not like selling tomato.
Okay, now Sarah is playing a little bit of advisory role now. It's saying that, well, Justice Tanko Muhammad has to recuse himself from this whole case. And if the allegations against the CJN hold weight, then an anti-graft agency is supposed to take up the matter. What's your stance on that call from Sarah?
The rule is, according to Section 292, before you can remove a CJ, you have to take it before the NJC. It is in our constitution. Now the NJC would investigate. And in all fairness to the NJC, the cases that have been brought up before, they have investigated it thoroughly without fear or bias. Do you understand? So the NJC will investigate. After the investigation, they will recommend either a dismissal, a retirement, or the anti-graft agency too. But none of this process has been followed.
Now, Nejeeb, as well, you listened to Donald Duke speaking there. The PDP has also said, well, this move of suspension is illegal and foreign to our constitution. Yes. Do you tally with all of this stance from Donald Duke to Sarah and PDP?
It's not something that is hard to decipher. It is there written in the constitution. The president cannot do it. I was saying that if Onnoghen was a very tough person or a stubborn person like Buhari, he too would suspend the president and maybe appoint Dino Melaye, since we all want to act like we don't know.
Well, that would be a state of chaos, and we don't want chaos.
So it's as crazy as that. It's as crazy as the CJN waking up one day and saying, I've suspended the president, or Saraki waking up one day and saying, I've suspended Buhari and appointed, maybe Oshibanjo. That's how crazy it is. It does not happen anywhere. And why we were looking at Buhari, because he's not a lawyer, he's not a judge. But when we saw Tanko come up to be appointed, it was very unusual, troubling. Unusual. This is a judge who is sitting at the highest council, who should know more than anybody else. It's very worrying.
It just makes me wonder, because as a little girl, when we were in school, when we taught government, the basics was that separation of powers. You had these three arms of government working independently, but then of course they have a synergy of sorts, one not higher than the other, or working hand in hand. So if we are having the executive somewhat infringe on the rights of the judiciary, which is supposedly, I hope, the hope of the common man, the last hope for the common man, where do we go from here?
Well, what we're having now is a constitutional crisis, because since the supposed CJ, acting CJ, was not properly, it is the NJC that would have recommended him to the presidency as the next senior person to Onnoghen, assuming Onnoghen has been found wanting. And since he has not been recommended, so he doesn't have, and those tribunal people that he saw in is null and void and of no consequence.
So it's an infraction.
Yes, it is a political crisis, because if you have an election and you table it before those election tribunal, you cannot go. I would not go before those tribunal, because the basis of which they were set up is negated, is null and void. Sorry, can I say something? They've been saying that the people have been talking about the Interpretation Act, that the Interpretation Act gives the president the right to suspend. No. The Interpretation Act cannot override the Constitution.
Can you say that again? Because we need to be clear. So you're saying that an act cannot supersede the powers that lie in the Constitution?
It is an Interpretation Act. It interprets the Constitution.
Oh.
Do you understand?
Okay.
So it cannot we cannot override Section 292, which says that the president cannot remove without the NJC.
Let's talk a little bit more from the security perspective of things now. We heard reports today that the Supreme Court was sealed off by some security operatives once again, away from the whole display at the National Assembly sometime last year and a whole lot more. We are seeing security operatives also come into focus. Does the meddling or the use of security operatives, anytime there is some sort of politicking or action that has to power play that has to take place, the security come in as the puppet? Is this part of their primary arrangement?
This should not be so. The police is for everybody. That is why people have been clamoring for state police.
But are you surprised that the acting CJN had already heard about 10 cases while the whole seal-off was going on?
You see, when people are calling for Onnoghen's resignation, I said he should not resign. He should fight this. It's a matter of integrity. It's a matter of honor. Because then his legacy for his children will be that he was a criminal. Nobody has investigated. Nobody has found him wanting. Whatever the supposed Justice Mohammed Tanko is doing, he's on his own. He's on a frolic. Until the NJC speaks otherwise, he's on a frolic.
Nejeeb, as at 7 a.m., early in the morning,
yes,
security operatives were on standby, seal off any access. Meanwhile, there are hearings going on at the Supreme Court.
Yes, the thing is, this is the problem with the executive having control of all these security agencies. With the Senate and the House of Assembly, House of Reps, we saw the same thing happen. So it's like the executive the president wants to wield the kind of force he used to wield as a military head of state. And the fact that he has the security agents under him, he feels he can use this. That's the main reason why he's swearing in his own personal CJ. If he did not have powers to back it up, if he did not have guns to scare people away, he would not be doing this thing. And I think those are the reasons why we have to review our constitution to say it's these forces will be under this. I think it's best the police is under the judiciary. I think it's best. They are the ones who sign warrants and other things like that, but they should have more control rather than having the president. It's for us, it doesn't work. The way Nigeria is, it doesn't work.
Marianne, everybody seems to be surprised at the way the drama, if I'm permitted to use that word, is unfolding. First and foremost, as the acting seat or the Tanko Mohammed, Justice Tanko Mohammed was sworn in, we had some judges as well sworn in for the election tribunal. And then the next thing again, while the seal-off is going on, you also hear hearings going on. Well, not necessarily private, but hearings are continuing. What do you think we should make of this character from the acting CJN since its appointment? Because at the end of the day, you said he should be in a better position to know better when it comes to following due process.
I would just see him as a desperate man. A man who wants power but doesn't want to wait for his time. A man who doesn't care whose ox is God. A man who feels he must make history, but the history he wants to make history, but history is not making him.
Okay, Nejeeb, quickly, because you mentioned something about investigations not being done. I think she mentioned about investigations not being done and due process not being
followed.
This is not the first time, by the way, that we're seeing these kind of shoddy media trials and quick actions. Do you think that what is happening now in closing, because we don't have time, might affect 2019 elections?
It's possible. It's possible because people are beginning to protest. Nigerians are not just sitting around allowing this go on. The lawyers, NBA is protesting. There are even regular citizens are protesting in Enugu, in Calabar, and some are expected to also protest in Lagos. If this thing builds up, it may cause problems for INEC. it may cause problems for the government in general. And I don't know if they've calculated this, if the presidency or the executive, they've calculated this, but there will be issues.
Unfortunately,
Oby.
All right.
Do you think we are going to have the elections hold on February 16th?
I think we're headed for a constitutional crisis. And I'm beginning to doubt if the elections will hold February 16. Honestly doubt it. But let us see. Who knows if the government does a U-turn, which I doubt, or whatever the NJC decides.
Well, everybody really thinks that the timing is just not right. And
That made me question if the executive is really sincere about wanting to have an election on February 16.
But do we now have to have this frosty relationship between the executive and then the judiciary or legislature? I can't seem to peg any sort of
It's something that
understanding.
we really can't put our fingers on, but we want to thank you very much, Nejeeb, for being here. Nejeeb Bello is a political affairs analyst, and of course, Oby Ajegbo is a legal practitioner. We'll keep our fingers crossed and watch, the stories unfold. Okay. Thank you.
And we'll continue to push for free, fair, credible elections, most definitely. Thank you very much, ladies, gentlemen. Good evening.
Okay.
Well, shall we have your thoughts on the former Chief Justice of Nigeria's case on any of our social media platforms? And we'll take a quick break and be right back. That's at Plus TV Africa on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as Facebook.
We'll be right back. Stay with us.